name is Adam Farhood. I'm the Director of Information Technology with MS Consultant. I'd just like to say thank you to ACEC Ohio for organizing this call. Beth and the team are always working hard behind the scenes to answer your questions and work with you. So thank you for doing this. I'll just start with some basic housekeeping. I think everyone's got it so far, but if you're not talking, just hit mute. You all know the general etiquette of conference calls. So if it's your first time talking, state your name and then what company you're with. Last time that we had this call, the chat function worked really good. So I don't know if everyone knows how to get to it. There's a little button on the Zoom window at the bottom that turns on that chat window. But it worked really well last time. And just please keep posting questions and have a discussion in this chat window. I'll try to, as you're typing, and help guide the conversation, and I'll pull questions and comments from that throughout this call. So, right now we are at the front lines of connecting people and business. Our method of connecting these people is technology, and this human and computer interaction is dependent on the dedicated professionals like yourselves to make sure that it works. I say this all the time, but using a computer is not easy. It's not naturally intuitive. Yet every day we work behind the scenes to make it look really easy. Someone on the conference call survey that we sent out last time wrote and they said that calls like this are very valuable and have a lot of value because it's good support to bounce ideas off of other people. Plus it gave them additional energy to continue pushing forward. This really encourages me to continue to join these calls and work together to try to help solve some of our problems. Governor Mike DeWine just extended our great work from home experiment until May 1st here in Ohio. This is really uncharted territory. This is a once in a 102-year event. And our companies are completely depending on us in the IT space to keep our businesses running. That is really a lot of pressure. So my first question is, how is our mental health as IT professionals? How many hours are we working and how are we taking care of ourselves? Since I'm talking, I'll just start and say that, me and my wife have been trying to keep a regular routine and wake up at the same time that we did before this stay-at-home order started. We try to exercise every morning and go for a walk. I try to turn my computer off by 5. It's not always that easy. And we've been on a James Bond movie marathon this week. So I just want to have other people share some of the things they're doing, because it's super important to make sure that, we are healthy to help support our companies. Anyone else want to share what they're doing? I'm getting silence.
Adam, this is Michael Massey. I'll chime in. First off, we all got to be nuts to be in this business. So I think that's half the battle. But you're right. You got to take that separation of home and work, and you got to put some separation in there, and you got to kind of force that sometimes. A lot of times it's hard to go home and, put your laptop down without checking your email and seeing what's going on, if anybody's having any problems. But you do have to put it down, and you do have to walk away.
I mean, it's super important. I mean, we have a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, but if we crack and our companies are depending on us, what are we going to do? So I just wanted to make sure that we all took some time to think about that. And if we're not thinking about that and stressing those kind of ideas to our teams, we don't want to get burnt out. I mean, there is a lot of pressure, but we're still humans and we still need to make sure we take care of ourselves. So I just wanted to, hopefully have people think about that if they don't want to share anything, but I think it's a super important thing. Okay, so because of this work from home experiment that we're doing, it's really confusing for all of us. It's like, my big question right now for the group is, how are the technologies that we're using going to change after this stay-at-home event? What new things are we doing? What things are going to go away? And like, just, all kinds of stuff, like paper. What are we doing to replace paper processes? I know I've been trying to reach out and figure out with our different clients and through, different routes, trying to see what are we doing to try to fix and, change this paper process. So I'm just curious for the group, like what's working, what's new, what's gonna change. What's working for people? I'm just.
So this is Michael Massey again, and I'd like to say that we, over the past couple of years, have been trying to move away from the paper form to something that you fill out. Unfortunately, we are still printing those off and submitting them that way, but now that you can fill them out and save them, you can also email them, to our ticketing system or whatever. That's one of the ways that we've tried to kind of migrate away from pushing a piece of paper. But I think you're right. I think we're going to see a lot more maybe form-based type web pages, and then they generate that information into a ticketing system or whatever.
Right now, it's just a different time because we have to support so many different things, and to make this work, I think we're starting to really figure out what technologies are working and what's not. And that's the heart of the question I'm trying to ask. Is there something that you're, for this is for everybody, is there something you're surprised that you're doing that you weren't doing before this, great work at home experiment that we're doing right now?
This is Rick Brock with Hall & Associates. Not a big deal, but we had some users that were still going into the office, trying to go into the office and scan documents. We're on Office 365 using OneDrive, and then we're excited to find out that you could scan documents in with OneDrive, and you could also sign. So that's been a big plus for us.
Yeah, it's just interesting to figure out how things are changed. I know just from what I see every day, it's the focus is change, and it's weird. And I want all of us to try to share some of our experiences, because we all have our individual experiences, but together, I think maybe just to understand how all this is going to work together. This is definitely strange times that we're in. One of the big things I think that for me personally is something that we have been trying to navigate, is just that virtual collaboration. And that's a super hot topic. It doesn't matter if you're a big or small company. And, I'm just curious to know from everyone, what's working for people? What are you guys doing to help, bridge that gap from, we used to be able to just go over to people's offices and have a face-to-face conversation. And right now we can't do that. It's, we're under stay-at-home order. So what's working? What are you guys doing to help collaborate and work with teams and, all these different scenarios that we have?
Yeah, this is Mike again from Osborne, and lots of Zoom meetings. We've had more requests come in for Zoom accounts for large meetings than we've had all year in the last week. So a lot of our employees have migrated to Zoom. It's been unfortunate with the security breaches that Zoom has had, but we're still leveraging that. We personally have not experienced any of that, but we are aware of it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I've been reading a little bit online, and Zoom in particular, obviously.
Hey, kids, let's close the door now.
Well, I was reading a lot about Zoom, and Zoom's been having a lot of trouble. They're the new kid on the block, and apparently they have enough security holes that people have been taking advantage. I know some DOTs are saying that people cannot use Zoom for meetings. Is anyone experiencing any pushback on using Zoom because of all the recent security stuff?
We haven't received any pushback, but, we have had questions, from our user community, hey, well, what's this stuff with Zoom? So, it's certainly out there. People are aware of it. Zoom has obviously responded with, their initiatives to try and crack down on it. I know that they brought in some cybersecurity specialists to consult with and try to get some ideas on how to make it a more secure platform. So they're taking the right steps, and it's unfortunate that an incident like this is what it takes to sometimes expose some of those holes. So for them, it's a good learning experience as well. And, I think they'll come out of it much better than when they went into it.
Yeah.
You should switch lines to Skype, and then they'll come back to Zoom in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, this is John, also at DLZ. We've had some pushback from DOTs that we've had to upgrade our license with Microsoft to add voice because they refuse to use Zoom. So we're going to use Teams for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember, Skype is going away. Skype is going to be the new Teams, basically. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy. So, as far as just using those tools, who is having, virtual happy hours with their team over these kind of systems?
4:30 tonight.
Right now.
Right now. I know that it's been super weird to not go into the offices and see the teams that you work with. And I know we had a happy hour with our IT group, and just being in there, I actually missed just seeing and being with those people. And I think that all these different collaboration technologies really, bring you to those people, and it's, not as multi-dimensional as sitting in front of the person, but it's just really good to sit. And this is kind of the thing that we have to work through. And this is what I'm trying to understand, how other people are doing it, but it's critical that we can connect all these people. I mean, imagine all these people who have worked in an office together for years. We're all separated now, and it's been, a couple weeks now. So just to see people's faces and work with them, I think this is some of the most important things that I think we as the IT world bring to our companies, is being able to enable these technologies and help people get through it to connect. So I just think it's a super important thing, and that's why I'm curious what you guys are doing. And maybe, I don't know if anyone else has anything to share.
Yeah, and to expound on that, just the collaboration alone. A lot of times, our user community, we have different aspects of engineering, electrical, civil, mechanical, that they need to communicate and they need to be able to collaborate. And this has really kind of brought it to the forefront on how important that really is. Mm-hmm. And Zoom has helped us with that, obviously. We have had a couple of groups, come into the office, and then, headed back home. But Zoom has really allowed them to kind of do this from home for us. It's been a big help. So
are we sharing screens? How does that work? How does a large group of people share screens? I mean, I can imagine they have design review sessions that they still have to do. And just how are we doing that? What are we using?
We're using Zoom. Osborne's using Zoom for that right now. That's kind of the best tool that we have in our toolbox today, and it seems to work well.
Bluebeam Sessions.
Say again?
Bluebeam Sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bluebeam is a good one. Are we using Bluebeam to, sign our drawings and submit them and work with our clients? Or are we that integrated that it's connected that way?
With some states we are.
Yeah, we are at Osborne as well. We use Bluebeam for signing, stamping and signing.
This is Shane from Millhouse. For some projects, and we definitely are.
Yeah, I mean, Bluebeam is an amazing tool, and it allows to really distribute those tasks. Has anyone, I'm curious, is anyone connecting Bluebeam with Nuforma to try to manage tasks and like just make sure that, you know, if we are doing this collaboration, there is this list of items and markups or whatever we're doing inside there? Is there a way to track and manage that? Okay. I'm just curious if those kind of things are happening. Well, the other big thing that obviously this is bringing to light is security is a big thing that we have to focus on. And obviously we have all seen that phishing and all these different scams are really exploded lately, especially because we had to rush so fast to get people set up. So is there any cleanup that we are doing now that someone could share that we are doing now? Because after the rush, and now we're kind of settled into this, we're kind of in a place where we are maybe getting close to caught up on everything. Is there any cleanup that we've had to do because of this rush to get everyone working from home?
So this is Mike again, Adam from Osborne. We haven't really done much cleanup, but we've done a lot of trying to stay in front of security by sending snippets to our users. Remember, don't download anything you're not expecting in an email from somebody. Look out for these types of scams. We've been pretty proactive with just communicating with the user community about some of this stuff that we're seeing. We're fortunate enough to have Barracuda that's caught a lot of it, but we do see some of it here and there gets through. And, I think just keeping it at the forefront for everybody that, hey, look, you're working from home, you're connected to our systems, please be a little bit more cognizant of, what you're doing and what you're connected to. So I think a lot of it's just keeping the educators, users, and keeping their mindset in the security.
Yeah, I mean, I know that some of us have had to, kind of do some crazy things to get this to work. And I'm just worried. And if anyone has problems, to just talk through it so we can help figure out, like, okay, we sent all these unsecured laptops home and we have people connecting to our network. Is a good setup? Is it working for us? And or did we make sure that we can't have malicious attackers come in through those routes? But yeah. Or how about, changing are we asking end users to do anything to their home networks? Right now, I think because we have all these people working from home, we have a new dimension in the struggle that we have in IT, is basically supporting that last mile of the end user. And what are we doing to that last mile? Home routers, internet speed, Wi-Fi versus wired. What do we doing there?
So we sent out a thing at the very beginning, Adam, basically, telling our users, look, you're going to be better off to plug into your router rather than connect to it wirelessly. It's going to be a more solid connection. You need to be conscious of what your internet speeds are. The faster, the better. And for the first couple of days, we ran into some hurdles and we got over them. And a lot of it, you're right, was right down to the last mile of the home person's internet connection and how they were connected. And, when they took the steps that we gave them, the ones that, read the emails we didn't hear from, but the ones that, just decided to go home and just connect willy-nilly and didn't read our emails were the ones that we heard from. And, when we verbally gave them those instructions, that seemed to solve a lot of the little problems that we were having. And now, for the last couple of days, we've pretty much been in, just kind of watch mode to see, what's going on, connecting, watching our resources and so forth. And we're not jumping through these hoops anymore.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
Adam, this is Aaron and with Dibble Engineering. Thanks for the invite a couple weeks ago. It's been a pleasure to listen to all the people out there that are actually going through this with us.
Yeah.
What are you all doing for slow connections? Because we have a base of operations on the Navajo Indian Reservation, and they only can use like HughesNet. And then we also have some outlying people that are, you know, in the weeds that also use some sort of flavor of that. And then another question, or my additional question is have you had any problems with people using routers with IPv6 and their connections with stuff within the office? I will let you guys answer.
Those are good questions. Anyone have any suggestions?
All I can say is once you go to, the satellite internet, you've got latency issues there almost right off the bat. So that's a major, major challenge. If they had a way to, I don't know if this is a small office type setup where you have a few maybe people in the office there, or if they're all just working from home. But I know that, some of the cellular carriers do offer some capabilities over the 5G network, where you can purchase a small Cisco router, and it has several ports off the back of it. You might want to look at maybe cellular. It may be too far out on the reservation for cellular as well, but that's about the only option I would have. Once you go to satellite, your latency's up there. There's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. We have 2 or 3 people that just, I mean, they get drop packets and then they lose, whatever they're talking on, and then they get frustrated. They call us and we're like, get a better internet package. That's the best I can do for you. And with regard to what you were saying, these are home users. They're
that's really the only answer is a better internet package. And you're still and you're going to get pushback from them, and they're going to go to their managers and complain, and they don't want to spend that. But that is the only answer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Additionally, does anybody have that IPv6 problem? Because a lot of my users have bought their modems and they come prepackaged. If the ISP gives you, an IPv6 address, it mucks up the works for everything. I mean, they just get all kinds of wonky issues.
Can they go inside of the router and configure it to
Turn it off.
Turn it off.
I think so, but it becomes a mindset that they have all this stuff connected and they have to reconnect it and all this other stuff. And I'm like, again, it's the end users that I'm trying to make happy. They go directly to their managers, like someone was saying here a couple minutes ago. They go directly to their managers, and then we get under target because we're not helping.
Yeah. No, it's
right.
difficult.
And that's the commonality. We have the same problem here. And, they go to their manager, and then their manager comes and says, look, I cannot help them with their home internet connection. There's nothing I can do unless they put some money into upgrading their home internet connection.
Yeah,
as far as the IPv6 thing, I wish we'd go one way or the other. We're either going to stay with IPv4, we're going to go to IPv6. I think we have to move to IPv6. It really is a much better protocol. There's a lot of security built into it. These people aren't going to be able to hide once we convert to it. I wish we just get it over and make the move.
No, I totally agree with you. It's either one way or the other. But I mean, a lot of our systems were IPv4, and if they connect in that way, they are not having a happy experience.
No, they're not. They're not. Like I said, the best thing you can do is disable it for now.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how much, because of all this stuff that's going on, what are we doing to help? There's the people with their home routers and their home setups. This is way outside of our network. This is not configured for the things we do, and it's not what we're used to doing. So what are other people doing? What are you guys doing how much are we supporting other home routers? Are we logging into these things and configuring them? And what are we doing?
I'm not doing that.
We're not touching them.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is Mike again. We're not touching their home equipment. Our advice to them is to, get with your ISP and talk with them about it. Even if it's like you said, the IPv6 thing, our advice to our end user would be call your ISP, talk to them, ask them how to disable it. If it's something you bought at Best Buy, you need to call the manufacturer, open up a help desk ticket with them and find out how to disable it, but this is what you need to do. We'll give them some advice, but we're not going to be logging into their home equipment.
I totally agree with you, and we have that same policy.
Anyone else want to chime in on this? I'm curious.
Yeah, this is John at DLZ. We've had problems with overlapping IPv4 ranges as well with our internal network, as well as IPv6. So we've fortunately been able to help people reconfigure their home routers and not take their kids, PlayStations off the network or whatever, but it's all been good so far.
Yeah, I think I know that we've had some issues with that too, and it's the overlapping subnets are definitely a problem. And at the end of the day, we have to help people work, right? So the pressure is there on us to try to help them, and this is way outside of what we're used to doing.
Yeah, the big piece of advice is don't design your office networks on the 192.168.1 subnet or the 192.168.0 subnet.
Yeah.
Because those are kind of what those routers come out of the box with default. So if you can stay away from those two, you're probably going to be pretty safe.
Well, let me ask, how many people have set up their networks way before we thought this would ever be an issue? Some of us have possibly set up our networks, 15 years ago when you wouldn't think of this as an issue.
We did, and then we had a network refresh our hardware, and at that point we resubnetted everything.
Yeah.
But we resubnetted it just for that purpose because we did have VPN connectivity into our offices, and we'd get these stragglers every once in a while. Hey, I can't connect, and it was a 192.168.1.0 network.
Yeah.
And so first thing I said is when we do the refresh, we're getting rid of that. We're going to resubnet everything. We did that, and it's paid big dividends to resubnet it, especially now.
Well, changing gears, I'm curious about, inside of our different companies, we always have we work at engineering companies, and all these people are extremely smart. And sometimes we've all experienced it. They give us a lot of IT advice. So now there's these different technology silos inside of our companies. Is anyone experiencing this we have this issue of these people are pushing technology and we have to try to work together, but are we figuring out how to break down these walls and use their knowledge? Anyone experiencing anything like this? I mean, different groups are pushing, every solution for some technology issue, and it may not necessarily be the exact path that our companies have subscribed to solve these problems, be it, video conferencing methods or some kind of collaboration tool or something. I'm just, wondering, is anyone having any experience here?
We have one individual here who thinks he works in IT. He's the mechanical engineer. His wife's a software engineer at a big software company in town, so he thinks he's got all the IT knowledge, but he submits all these ideas which, are not going to work in a corporate IT environment. So we take them with a grain of salt, try not to offend him, but, that's kind of what we get. But it's only really one person in our organization that we see that from.
Well, I'm wondering, do we get any good ideas from these people?
This is Andrew Bisman at CT Consultants. So one of the things we use Ring Central for our meetings, which is basically based on Zoom, but Ring Central also has a good chat feature with it, like Teams. We were reluctant from an IT standpoint to get into it from a security side, but what's happened, we found that our teams discovered it and people started getting into it, and now it's basically gone hog wild across the company. And I think we're not as scared of the security risks in it as we used to be, because anything, phishing email or whatever, has got a security risk for it. We have to sort of depend on our protection systems that we have.
Yeah, no, those are the kind of things that are just, it's so many new technologies and new services are just popping up, and I'm always curious of what is working, and all of us want to hear that, I think. I guess, just moving on here, one of the things that we're in our company, we're in the middle of an office move, and we have an office that we're going to move in Pennsylvania, and that Pennsylvania has like a big shutdown on all of construction, all kinds of progress for anything like that. So there's going to be a delay, I think, in our ability to move into our new office. But I'm wondering if companies are starting to look at and asking us in the IT world, are we, do we not need physical locations anymore? Can we bridge that gap where maybe we don't, if it's a small office, don't need to build an office because we have this full infrastructure that we've set up for this? Is anyone being asked from their leadership group to say, hey, can we start an office here without building or buying a building?
I haven't been asked that, but I have suggested that to my management because we have 3 other offices that could easily work from home.
Yeah, I mean, the cost for an office, those dollars could be easily reallocated. And if we don't need that space, I'm curious if other people are getting asked these kind of questions.
This is Tyler from, I'm not in Ohio. We're definitely seeing some conversations at the upper leadership level talking about how we can even change hiring in general using a lot of these technologies, bringing people in from other states based on their talent and setting them up to be able to work from home, whether it's WorkSpot or VPN or whatever type of scenario that'll work for those users.
This is Fred Sealing from Engineering Associates. We're we're under 30 people, and we lost a promising structural engineer 1.5, 2 years ago. She was due to get married and her husband lived out of state. And at that time I was kind of like, boy, we ought to see if we can't keep her around and work remotely. It was going to be kind of tough because she was, a college graduate and all of the training that goes in there. But, that whole thought's been over in my mind. And actually, I'm the owner of the building that I rent from right now too, but it's kind of like, okay, how can I downsize this and sublet it or something maybe? So, I mean, I think those are real issues that we're all going to have to face up to, even us smaller firms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone else?
This is Tyler again. I think with even when we do start to come out of this lockdown and shelter at home scenario, a lot of staff that are at home teaching their kids are going to continue teaching their kids from home until the schools are going to come back online. And so I'm expecting, we're maybe going to see 50% of our staff come back to work in our 4 offices. The shelter places lifted, and then those other 50% are still going to be working remotely. So I think that the conversation again for us is shifting from, how do we maintain this currently to that's going to be the new reality. And so we need to be able to figure out how to make those people as productive as possible in the long run. Which I find it exciting. I think it's going to be a great way to leverage a lot of new technology and tools, and it's kind of a crazy big project, but I think that unfortunately this is going to be a lot more of the same going forward, and not. I don't think we're going to get back to where this doesn't happen.
I think that does bring up a really good point. I mean, the work from home myth is now here, and we have all adopted it. So have we seen any policies? Have we been creating policies for this, and what kind of policies are we doing? There could be virtual recruiting. Fred was talking about losing people, but we can have these virtual recruiting policies that I don't know if HR groups are reaching out to the IT saying, what can we do? Because we, right now maybe we're not hiring so much. I don't know if there's some forward-thinking HR leaders coming to the IT group saying, is there any, what can we do for this virtual recruitment strategy?
This is Tyler again. We've actually onboarded 3 new people during shelter at home. So we've brought on 1 structural engineer and a civil engineer, an architect, and we have a landscape architect and a planner coming on the 20th. And they're not coming into the office. There's no one to greet them there. Everything's being done virtually. And so far it's been doable. Those folks are working, they're fully chargeable, and it's just taking a lot more resources from their managers and their work groups to make sure they're feeling like they're part of the team and included. And so I think that probably going to be the harder challenge, is how do those groups integrate someone that most of their team hasn't even actually physically.
Yeah, are there knowledge bases or training systems that we're using to help integrate those people that we've had to set up? What kind of systems do?
This is Shane from Millhouse. We've actually onboarded 8 people since the sheltering home in Chicago. And I'll come up to your second question. I'll start with that. The knowledge base is being developed as we speak for these remote team members that are being onboarded in their home, not even coming to the office. We've been exploring the process of drop to ship straight from our manufacturer, pre-imaging machines, and giving them their full solution, 2 monitors, docking station sent directly to their home with one of our vendors. So we're exploring the process as we're going through it. There has been challenges with internet speeds, and some people just aren't as tech savvy working from home. So these are some of the working through just to make do in this time period. But I do see this becoming the new norm very soon.
Yeah. How are we handling that? The hardware issue is, I think, a very difficult issue for us because we're used to physically being able to touch this equipment. But what kind of experience do everyone on this call have with, just dealing with the physical hardware stuff?
This is Shane again. We're currently testing out. We sent our vendor our ISO images to the warehouse, and they set up a private VPN. We're supposed to be testing it sometime next week. They'll be responsible for plugging it in, turning it on. We'll remote in to push through the image. Then we'll do our post-imaging process for the user, setting up the different whatever software package they need. And then once that's completed, they box it up. We've put together a onboarding document of how to get started, and then the plan is to ship it to the user. We're still testing it, so I don't know if it's going to work, how well it's going to work, but this is where we're at today.
That kind of brings me to another point. It brings up something interesting, like our day-to-day help desk issues. How close to normal are we right now?
This is Mike from Osborne. Ours have been pretty much back to the normal, typical things that we deal with on our day-to-day, even when we were in the office. Obviously those first couple of days of remote connectivity, we had a lot of, people having issues, but again, we sent them home with the document. They didn't read the document. When we walked them through it, they were able to connect. So we're over that hurdle. I think we're back into the routine now of what the help desk really is.
Or other people's experience here.
Yeah, I'm Neil Johnson with Jones and Henry. We basically we don't really have many help desk straight up issues anymore like we used to. A lot of it was taken over. So once we got everybody smoothed over on their connections, it seems to be a lot simpler for them to do a lot of things just at home, and working on their machines and everything else is kind of just related to the normal phone and printing and all that classic stuff that we've had issues with, and the remote is taking care of a lot of that for us right now. So we'll see what happens as they start coming back, but so far so good.
Yeah. Adam?
Yeah.
We've been experiencing it. We had a real big push at the beginning of it about 2.5 weeks ago with, abnormal requests and, ISP issues between users, but it's gone largely back to normal. We use a case box for our help desk and also for pushing software. So during this time, we've been able to actually push software to people's machines. It may not be the fastest way, but I mean, in a pinch, you don't have to, figure out a way to get them software that we have in our library.
So how many people have, we have two different scenarios of setups we can have. We can have some kind of on-premise VDI remote desktop solution versus people having laptops that are remote. So if we have a software upgrade to do, and everyone here, I can assume is familiar with how big an Autodesk push out is. How are we handling stuff like Autodesk software and upgrading these remotely if you have, there's two different scenarios, the VDI versus laptops that they have at their house?
This is Mike again from Osborne. We've used PDQ Deploy to push software down to our clients, whether they're internal or external. And it seems to work pretty well. Obviously, the Autodesk stuff that are large packages take a little bit more time. So it's a time thing. We try to, tell the users at the end of the day, let us know when, when your computer's freed up, we'll push this out to you. It's going to take a while. And I think we set that expectation that this isn't something that's going to happen in 10 seconds.
Does it work to push an Autodesk package over PDQ Deploy from a VPN connection?
Yep, it's worked pretty well for us.
Hey, this is John at DLZ. We just deployed, Microsoft CMG as well as Patch My PC. So, and that's working pretty good for us. As long as they have an internet connection, I can find it and patch it.
This is Tyler with RM Design Group. PDQ Deploy has been pretty phenomenal. We're also probably 85% of our users are connecting to their machines via Splashtop. So we're lucky in that respect that we've got a large majority of our equipment still physically inside our networks. So patching has been pretty easy for a lot of those machines. The external, it has worked pretty well with PDQ unless they've just got terrible connectivity.
Here, quick question. So for those not deploying internally, updates, patches, new software, stuff like that, is anybody aware of deployments that can be pushed from a cloud-based resource? Because, we've got a great internet connection, but when it's encrypted and you're taking into account people's home users and stuff like that, those deployments significantly slow down, and large deployments are much faster when being pulled directly from a cloud-based resource. Is anybody aware of something that allows the deployment to cloud-based, computers remotely to be pushed from a cloud-based resource?
Yeah, that's what we're using. This is John at DLZ again. We're using the Microsoft CMG, Cloud Management Gateway from Azure. We do have some Azure egress charges, but combining that with the Patch My PC, System Center SCCM add-in, it works really good.
Okay, yeah. So for example, I did a Bluebeam push to a user. It took 4 hours. I then could just go to that user's machine, download Bluebeam from the cloud or from Bluebeam's website, 1.2 gig file, and that took 5 minutes to install, input the license information, then that was it. So that's a case in point where it's just like, God, this is awful how bad it is to try to push something that large over a VPN connection. So
this is Andrew Bismuth, CD Consultants. I've been looking at that a little bit because that's one of my concerns. If we stay this longer, we currently use a Windows Update server in-house. And there's a company out there called AutoMox. I think it's called AutoMox that I've been looking at. And basically they do everything cloud-based. Now, I'm not sure what it takes to deploy and, how that's going to work, but that's a system out there that I've seen that's cloud-based, at least for the patching standpoint.
We were using a vendor. This is Chad Balzer with Brett Becker. We're using a vendor that was trying to help support our IT, but their turnaround time was so slow. But they're using ConnectWise, and that basically manages all my hardware. It manages patch management, but it's all cloud-based. So we use a split tunnel VPN that allows all the data to flow directly from the internet, use their fast internet speeds, and not task our VPN. But I'm able to push packages to the users without their knowledge directly to their hard drives. And then I can run scripts that will install those packages and do all the settings and everything. And then ConnectWise also allows me to remote desktop directly to their machine, whether they're connected to the VPN or not.
How many
Good
people? Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I just say good insights. Thank you.
I'm curious to how many people, I think Chad was just saying that they're doing split VPN. How many people have set up their VPN networks on VPN connection and have any worries about the security that security hole that opens up by doing a split VPN?
The benefits outweigh the costs right now to have split tunneling versus not.
Yeah, I agree. The benefits of split tunneling are far surpass the risk.
Yeah, we have our internal firewall locked down. So to deal with people at home, we implemented Open DNS, which is now a Cisco product called Umbrella, and we also have WebRoot installed on all the machines, and they're also all controlled with policies through our ConnectWise clients.
Okay. Anyone else?
I posted some stuff in the chat about what I was talking about.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with the chat, but it's hard to talk. I guess another thing that's a big issue that we're getting asked to look at as IT professionals is all of our budgets. Obviously this situation's brought some tough times to all of us, and there's still tough times ahead. But what are we being asked from our leadership as far as budgets on? Are we losing IT staff? Is anyone losing IT staff or have to downsize there?
We're not losing any staff here at Osborne. They have been asked to watch the expenses, not add to anything that, we don't need to renew or already have, to kind of hold off now until this situation resolves itself. Hopefully May 1st, we're all going to be back to work. Looks like the curve has pretty well flattened itself out and numbers are starting to decline. So hopefully we're on the other side of that, and we're all back by the 1st. I think it'll be a great thing.
I had a conversation yesterday with our partners in regards to the acceptance of realizing that what was once considered our norm is going to be completely different. People's expectations are going to be after this when it comes to giving them the capabilities and opportunities to work remotely, as well as just being in a new world, perhaps, of people realizing that, with maybe a couple weeks notice, if we're lucky, we may have to force everybody to go home. My children, we live in Minnesota, so thanks Ohio for letting us jump in here and see what you guys are all doing. But in Minnesota, we often have snow days, and the snow days that we used to always love at kids, our kids may never experience that anymore because they're all virtual learning. But we're all realizing and are going have to learn from these mistakes, and after our employees all go back to work doesn't mean back to what was the norm prior to that. So as a leadership group, we're trying to understand what that's going to mean and make sure that the technologies we're deploying or continue to deploy are going to allow for that flexibility to have that decentralized element of whether somebody's in the office or outside the office.
So are you having to make investments into softwares, or are we being asked to make software cuts to any of our contracts that we have?
For us in particular, we have been making investments, or when we're looking at solutions, making sure that it has that decentralized element, more cloud-based. How can we work? How does this work if we're not in the office? This was before any of this had ever happened. I just like the flexibility of having employees that can work from anywhere, more than I like people just simply saying, hey, we need to open an office here. So that's just been something I put on the radar for the last probably 2 to 3 years. So it's part budget, it's part changing the direction of where people used to be to where they now need to look when it comes to doing these things.
Yeah. Is anyone else having to look at cutting software? And if we do cut software, how do we make that decision? What are we doing? What kind of metrics are we using to look at that to manage these contracts? Do we have any software or tools that we feel are helping us really navigate all these different agreements that we have and making sure we're utilizing them? I know that we have, softwares like Sassafras that we're using to try to gauge usage across software to make sure our agreements are being fully utilized. Obviously, it's a tough time, and I can imagine everyone else like me is getting asked by their CFOs to say, okay, this is the bill and this is how much it is, but why is it this much? And is there anything we can do about this cost?
Yeah, this is John in Ohio and DLZ. We've got we use Sassafras as well. It works pretty good for us. We've had to add about 200 seats to our license of Sassafras with all the extra machines we've had to add for remotely controlling CAD workstations. But yeah, it works well.
Is anyone else using a solution like Sassafras?
Use Case from Quest.
Case. How does that work? Does it do good reporting, and what kind of information does it give you?
It's full, hardware cycle management software. We also use it for our help desk and knowledge base sharing, but you can set up different reporting based on products used within 30 days, products used within 60 days. Basically you just name the time, and that's at least how we're using it, just to see how often things are being used, especially if they're starting to be called into question. We'll start to up the reporting and maybe be a little more specific on it.
Yeah. Changing gears a little bit. I know Shane brought up something earlier about, the lead time on hardware, and this is such a weird space that we're in that we don't get to have access to the hardware. What are we doing to help, bridge this gap with getting hardware sent to users? Now, I don't know if it's been enough time for us to have enough experience with it, but just getting access to hardware and shipping out, because there's still going to be hardware issues and all these people are remote. So how are we dealing with that?
This is Ben with Schaefer. We don't have anybody going in the office really, so we've been going in one-by-one basis for any new hires we've got over the craziness that's going on, and then getting their stuff ready and sending it with a book bag and everything.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's really helped us is Dell Image Assist. You can have, obviously you got to be a Dell shop, but our laptops can come with the image we set up deployed on them. So really we just log in as them and get their Outlook and all that jazz set up for them and send it out.
Is that are other people doing similar things? Do we still have to physically go in and send them, to an office or to our houses to take into the office here? well, does anyone else have any, questions or something to bring up to talk with the group? Okay.
I have a question for the group. This is Shane again. How are you currently pushing GPO updates to remote users? Because most of the time you have to already be, GPOs typically get pushed before you VPN in. The updates happen typically before you VPN in. I'm just trying to figure out a way to push GPO updates to remote team members.
Yeah. Yeah. I see Ben saying, do a GP update /force once they're connected. Yeah, Microsoft Direct Access does offer, that isn't kind of an instant connect thing, but that is a difficult thing to, if you don't have a connection to the network, how are the GPOs are updated right when you boot your machine. I think if you don't have direct access, I think you have to do a GP update /force or have them run a manual script or use a solution like PDQ to push those out to the users. Yeah. Well, I'd like to, wrap this up and thank ACEC Ohio for putting this event together. There's still so much stuff going on. There's still a lot to overcome, but hopefully these calls can help us all work together to succeed. So, thank you everybody for joining this conversation and spending time with us. Make sure you take care of yourself. Bye.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks, Adam.